taking the kids to the park, feeding the ducks, and playing with toy train. Graham Leach adored being a granddad, but he never expected to have to raise his young 2 grandsons, both with additional needs, all by himself. It was 10 years ago when Graham, a divorcee, received a phone call that would dramatically change his life. The pensioner knew his daughter had used drugs, but nothing prepared him for what he was about to hear. "It was my daughter Cheryl on the phone," explains Graham, former warehouse operations manager. "She said, 'Social service are here and they are going to take the children away.'" Graham told his daughter to put them on the phone. "They said I needed to come and pick the boys up right away, or they would be taken into care. It was such a shock." Graham had no idea social services were involved with his daughter, let alone the extent of her drug addiction. They told him his 2 grandsons, Tommy, then 5, and Rocco, then 18 months, would end up in foster care if he didn't intervene. "I immediately said, 'No way! I didn't want them going into the system,'" says Graham, "but I had no idea how I would cope." Several hours later, Graham found himself returning to his modest home in Blackburn, Lancashire, with all the boys' worldly possessions stuffed into a carrier bag. "The whole process had to be so quick. All I could get was a few clothes and cuddly toys," says Graham. Within hours, and feeling woefully underprepared, Graham had become the main carer of 2 bewildered youngsters. "I had a lovely bond with the boys, as I was used to looking after them at weekends, but it was very different, suddenly having full responsibility for them. I loved them, but was quite at sea. I'd been so naive about my daughter's Cheryl drug issues, but I had to focus on the boys." In 1980s, Graham separated from his wife of 13 years and consequently won the custody of their 3 children, Cheryl, then 12, and sons Carl, 10, and Martin, 8. Cheryl took the breakup particularly hard and ultimately chose to live with her mother, but she later fell within the wrong crowd, became involved in abusive relationship, and turned to drugs. Initially, life was about surviving, and as well as supplies like nappies and wipes. For Rocco, Graham stocked up on the kids' favorite comfort foods, like pizza, and tried to make them feel as secure as possible, with cozy evening, watching Thomas the Tank Engine and drinking hot chocolate. Tommy was at school and Rocco had nursery, but because of the boys' struggles with attachment issues, Graham was unable to work. Learning as he went along, Graham, who would describe himself as a practical person with lots of patience, was truly thrown into the deep end of parenting. Graham assumed that once he had agreed to take on the children, he would be supported by social services in the same way a foster family might receive help. But he was dismayed to discover that the kinship carers like him, relatives who take on the care of vulnerable children, have no rights in law and get no automatic financial allowances. After grafting all his life, Graham was forced to use what a little he had saved up to put food on the table and clothe the boys. Feeling frustrated by the lack of the government support, Graham discovered online charity Grandparents Plus, which steered him toward places where he could seek legal and financial advice, as well as put him in touch with others in the similar situations for some much-needed emotional support. He is also backing the idea of a new law to ensure kinship carers get the help they need. As Tommy and Rocco get bigger, they are now 15 and 12. They needed their own space, so Graham was forced to take £40,000 out of his hard-earned pension to fund an extension to his home. Graham's daughter Cheryl tells him she is grateful to him and had sporadic contact with her sons. They still call her mom, but they are worried for her. As is Graham, because although she is in recovery, she still has relapses. As the boys got older, Graham filled them in gradually about the circumstances that led to Tommy and Rocco being taken into his care. Sometimes I would have to say, "Mommy is poorly this week," and they would accept that. Tommy has a sleeping disorder and attachment issues. Rocco's ADHD struggles mean school can be hard, says Graham. I can be quite strict with them because I don't want them going off the rails.